Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our RMF guests. Just last year, the National Institute of Mental Health conducted a research on public speaking, and results showed that nearly 75% of all people have speech anxiety. That means that with our sample size right here in this room, roughly maybe 5 of you do not experience speech anxiety. So if you come up here and you feel a little bit shaky and a little anxious, just know that you are a part of the vast majority. I once heard that whenever you delve into a topic, you should always ask why at least 3 times. So I'm going to go ahead and do that in order to delve into this topic of speech anxiety. Why, number 1, the most obvious question. Why do people have such a fear of public speaking? In the past year, I've taken a particular interest in this topic because I thought it was very unique to me, the fear that I felt when I came up to the lectern. But it turns out, as I spoke to a lot of people around me, this was actually a pretty widespread sentiment. Even some of the most confident people that I know in my life expressed that they felt fear with public speaking. When I asked them, why do you think you feel the fear? Nobody could really answer or pinpoint why they felt it. They just knew that they felt it. And upon introspection, I too realized that I didn't really know why. I just knew that it was terrifying, and that was it. The only thing that we could concretely notice and acknowledge was that we did have a shared manifestation in our physical form of what that fear looked like. For example, reddening of the face or the neck, shaky knees or shaky hands, heart racing, breathlessness, a tightening of the throat, knot in your stomach. These are some of the most common ones. Or perhaps an inability to use an interlude in your speech. Why number 2? Why does the human body exhibit these types of behaviors? I'm sure many of you already know this, but the list of symptoms that I just listed right now are very similar to the fight or flight response that our bodies experience. The fight or flight response is a physiological reaction that occurs in our bodies in response to a perceived threat to survival. While researching this online, I came across a lot of words that I heard somewhere in my high school science classes that didn't have a whole lot of meaning right now, such as the amygdala, hypothalamus, the adrenal cortical system. I didn't really care about all those terms. Ultimately, I wanted to know what are the physical effects that result from that entire process. The list consisted of the following symptoms: heart rate increase, perspiration, tunnel vision, shaking, flushed face, dry mouth, slow digestion. If you feel like you just heard this list, it's because I just listed pretty much the same exact things about what I had talked about with my friends about what we felt before having to give a speech in public. Why number 3? So why does public speaking induce our fight or flight response? Why do we perceive public speaking as a threat to our survival? I watched a really fascinating TED speech by a man named Dave Gwynn, and he takes us back to hundreds and thousands of years ago when men were hunters and gatherers. And he gives a situation of the very first hunter-gatherer, a very brave hunter-gatherer, and he's out, as you guessed it, hunting and gathering. And all of a sudden he finds himself in this torrential downpour, and he needs to find shelter. So he sees a cave, and it's very dark, but he's brave, right? So he goes ahead and runs into it without any caution. He gets immediately eaten by a bear and he dies. Situation number 2. We have a scaredy cat hunter-gatherer. He's in the same situation. He's out hunting and gathering, torrential downpour, needs to find shelter. He sees the same exact cave, but he's scared, and it's dark, and maybe there's a bear in there, or maybe there are ghosts, or I don't know. So he decides, I'm not going to go into that cave. I'm going to find somewhere safer to hide. Now, which of these hunter-gatherers have continued to reproduce and send forth their genetics? Not the brave one.
The bear.
Yes, the bear. The bear spoke to us as well. Not the brave one, he's dead. The scared one. Hundreds and thousands of years later, here we are. The result of a continued line of genetics of scaredy cats who have survived. Public speaking is like that cave. It's the unknown reception of our speech. Our entire audience is the bear. For me, my audience is Carl because he's my evaluator. I don't know if he's going to rip my speech to shreds, or maybe you all might go home and say, man, she gave the worst speech I've ever heard of in Toastmasters history. That rejection and potential embarrassment is really frightening. Dave Gwynn was basically alluding to the fact that our fear of public speaking is all due simply to natural selection. When we hear natural selection, though, we typically think of survival of the fittest, and by fit, we think of that brave hunter-gatherer. However, it was the scaredy cat hunter-gatherer and his fear that allowed him to survive. So the next time you come up to select turn, or you're in any other forum where you have to speak in public and you feel that anxiety coming over you, don't be so tough on yourself. And consider this. We are the evolved scaredy cat hunter-gatherer, the nervous speech giver, entering the dark cave of the unknown reception of our speech. But this time, we are armed with tools like Toastmasters to finally conquer that bear. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. In this next 3-minute interlude, we're going to talk about Viviana's number 7 speech, which also was research your topic, much as Patty did with the first speech. First of all, I was particularly impressed that the speech itself was woven right in with the theme, the breathe and pause, and I thought that was very effective. It made it effective just to start with before you even got into the speech. Now, the purpose of your speech, for the benefit of our guest, is to select a subject of importance to the audience that requires a large amount of research. The speaker is to collect information from numerous sources and carefully support points with specific facts, examples, and illustrations, rather than just the speaker's own opinions. This was, I thought, a good educational speech about Toastmasters in a sense in public speaking and why people are afraid of public speaking, as well as fulfilling an manual assignment. So you really killed 2 birds with 1 stone on that one. One thing I particularly liked about the way you delivered your speech was you avoided the previous rapid-fire delivery that you had a few speeches ago. On each speech that you give, I see you improving in this area. In fact, you had complete sentences, much like Annette had last week, where there was a period at the end and then a pause and then on to the next sentence. And you carried that out through about the first 5 minutes of your speech, and you sensed that maybe you were running a little short on time, I think, and you started speeding up a little bit more and not as many pauses at that point. So just be aware that did happen, but again, a tremendous improvement. There was at least 1 interruption during your speech. You handled it well. You didn't let it fluster you, and that also is good. Things that I would like to see. While you had research for this topic, I think it was just barely enough to make it through the speech. I think there perhaps could have been something more deliberate or more involved that you could have spent more time talking about, rather than just bring it out and move on to your points. I think you spent more time on the points than you did on the research that drove the points. So that would be my major suggestion. There were a few times toward the end when you started to drift back into faster speaking, and I couldn't hardly hear you at all, even though I'm only 2 away. Granted, I'm an old guy and I don't have my hearing aids, but still, it's still an improvement over your previous speech. So overall, I think you definitely met the requirements of the speech, and you get better every time I hear you speak, and I look forward very much to number 9. Mr. President.